welcome to the first episode of the Kerry My Heart podcast. This podcast is primarily going to be about knitting and some crochet, but it's also going to include just a lot of different crafts and handiwork as well. So different places that you can find me. You can find me on Ravelry at kerryecogan and on Instagram at the same name. And you can also go read my blog if you so desire. I confess that it's not incredibly up to date, but if you feel so inclined to go read past posts, or maybe if I, knuckle down a little bit and get to writing, you can go read that at kerryecogan.blogspot.com. And if you want, I also have another YouTube channel where I post covers of songs, playing the guitar and singing, and you can find that at Kerry Ecogan here on YouTube. So I will post all of that in the description box here on this video because that was a lot to remember. So why I'm starting a podcast? So I discovered the world of knitting podcasts here on YouTube fairly recently, a couple weeks ago, and I love it. I love it so much. And so I'm starting a podcast to make connections with fellow creatives because I feel that fiber arts is such a wonderful community and there is such an exchange of knowledge and information that takes place here, and I just really want to be a part of that. So some of the podcasts that I currently watch that really inspired me to start my own include Molly of A Homespun House, Mina of the Knitting Expat podcast, Kristen of Yarngasm, Jenny of Tiny Paper Foxes, and last but not least, Andy of Andre Sue Knits. Andy's podcast is actually the one that I discovered first on YouTube, and it's amazing. Some serious podcast aspirations right here. So, Andy, on the off chance that you're watching, hello, thank you for your podcasts, and same goes to the other ladies as well, because you can ask my fiance, David. I have sat around with my knitting for the past few weeks, just literally watching one episode after the other, discovering all of these lovely ladies, and I'm just really excited to join this world of podcasting. So I officially started knitting 4 years ago. I had previously learned how to knit from my sister Colleen when I was about, I'll say 10 years old. And David, for our first Valentine's Day together, he bought me a set of needles and some yarn because I mentioned to him just in passing that I really wanted to try out knitting again. And so that's sort of where it all started, I guess. A year after that, I learned how to crochet, and then I guess as of 2 weeks ago, I started spinning. So I'm slowly acquiring new yarny skills, so to speak. And so, the reason why I really just love to knit and to craft in general is that I feel like it brings me back to my roots. Not necessarily my roots per se, but it sort of brings me back to days gone by. I love the idea of homesteading, and I also really love the idea of starting to curate a homemade wardrobe. And so I don't have a whole lot of garments at the moment. I'm mostly an accessories knitter, but I have made a few tops, and I would love to experiment with that more and really grow my skills as a knitter. This piece that I'm actually wearing right now, this is the Halstead shawl. It is possibly my all-time favorite thing that I've ever crocheted. It is done in a yarn from a store that is local to me called Mia Bella, and this is their homespun yarn and hand-dyed yarn. It's called Kitten, and it did not have a specific colorway on it. It was just a bunch of numbers, and I'm sorry that I can't remember it, but it is just this gorgeous off-white blush color. It is so pretty, and I always get compliments on it when I wear it because just the yarn is so gorgeous. So that's what I'm wearing now. And I guess let's get into some of the things that I'm working on right now. So I don't know exactly all the different features that I'm going to have on this podcast. Knitting for sure, definitely some crochet. I would love for there to be more spinning if I can get better at it. Also probably some cross stitch because I love to cross stitch. Is probably my first crafting passion, and I would also love to one day feature some dyeing of yarns because that is something that I would love to learn, and I would also love to feature some sewing one day. So I guess we'll start with sewing because that'll be the quickest. I have never sewed anything in my life. However, I do have a sewing machine and it's been staring at me, and I really want to give it a go, but I'm a little nervous about it. I think because, I don't know, I feel like I have this desire for everything to work out the first time I try it, and I just know that's not going to be the case for the first time that I try sewing. But David actually bought me some really pretty fat quarters for me to sort of test out with. And so he's been really encouraging, trying to get me to give it a go. And my favorite is definitely this, this floral purple pattern. It's very, very Laura Ashley. So, may not have liked that kind of pattern when I was forced to wear it when I was younger, but I'm a huge fan of it now. So that's sewing, like I said, nice and quick. Now for works in progress for knitting, I'll just go ahead and dive right in. So the project that I will show you first is stored in this bag. It's a Japanese knot bag from an Etsy shop called Lavender Hill Knits. And so it's this really beautiful bag, and then it has another pattern on the inside. And so what I have in here is the starts of the Tiffany Triangle shawl. And I'll show you what book it's from first. It's from this book, Wendy Knits Lace. Sorry for the glare on the book, but Wendy Knits Lace by Wendy D. Johnson. And excuse my sniffles, I'm sorry. I'm sure that's not what you want to be hearing. But this is the pattern. It's really, really beautiful. I honestly don't think that the pictures in the book really do it justice. You can't really see it very well, but hopefully once I get it done, which hopefully won't be too long from now, I will be able to show it off a little better. So this is not very much of it, but it's the starts of the shawl. And so it's this beautiful lace, which you probably can't see very well because it's definitely going to need very aggressively blocked. But I am knitting this in Knit Picks Gloss Lace in the colorway Port. And as you will see by the next few projects that I'm going to show you, Knit Picks yarn is honestly what I primarily knit with, just because it's pretty good yarn. And it's definitely affordable, which is kind of my MO in terms of buying yarn. I would love to try out all the more luxurious yarns that are out there. But I'm just going to have to start acquiring them slowly. Actually, so where I bought this Mia Bella yarn was from YarnCon last year. And YarnCon is coming up the first weekend of April. So I will definitely be acquiring some new to me, really beautiful yarns and maybe some fiber as well. So I'm really excited about that. So the next project I'm keeping in and this little project bag that was actually sewn for me by my future mother-in-law. So I really love this bag. It's got a great little pocket in the front that right now just has the information from the ball of yarn. Again, like I said, Knit Picks yarn. This is Knit Picks Dishy and the colorway Tranquil. And this is just a little hand towel that has been on the needles for over 2 years. I've knit one of these before. This is the basket rib hand towel, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's really nice, really beautiful, really basic, but it has nice stitch definition. And so, like I said, I have one of these finished already, and just looking at this one and how new and fresh it looks and comparing it to the one that I've already made, which is all nubbly and well loved. So much for them being a pair, which was the original intention. Now, because they no longer look alike. So that's that. Like I said, this is something that has been on my needles for the longest time. I think what originally happened was this is knit on size 6 needles, and I needed the needles for something else. Recently, however, for Christmas, my mom got me another needle set. So I will be able to start working on this again, because I won't constantly be taking that needle from it in order to work on other projects. So this really would be something that would be great for like commuter knitting. I spend a lot of time on the bus and the train getting to and from work and school. So I think that might be the way to go. So yeah, be nice commuter knitting. So I'm gonna take a sip of my tea for a second. And in case you're wondering, I am drinking an Irish breakfast tea from David's Tea, which is quite possibly my favorite tea store. So next work in progress, move on to some crochet. So what I'm about to show you is from the Simple Crocheting book. This was the first book that I actually received when I was gifted some hooks to start learning how to crochet, and this book is by Erica Knight. And what I'm working on is the texture throw, which is a really beautiful blanket that I've actually made before. I made it for my parents as a Christmas gift for Christmas 2014, and then I loved it so much that I wanted to make myself one. So shamefully, I started this blanket March of 2015. It is now March of 2016. So I have not been as diligent about working on it as I was the original one that I made. But I am happy to report that this is almost a finished object. I only have the border left to do, and so by next week, fingers crossed, I will be able to show it off as a finished object. So, surprise, surprise, this is knit in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes bulky yarn. This is the sea glass colorway. The beach glass colorway. This is really, really beautiful, like greenish teal color. And I just love it. It's the exact yarn that I used for the blanket for my parents. I knit in the Porcini colorway, so it was like a nice muted brown color, really earthy and beautiful. And then this is much brighter. I honestly wish that, for myself personally, I prefer more muted colors, more browns and earth tones, so I kind of wish that I had my parents' blanket, and my mom actually confessed to me that she kind of wishes that she, I showed her this color, and she loved it, so maybe I should have done a little switcheroo, but I know that they still love it, and I know that I'm gonna love this, so it's gonna go right on my bed as soon as I'm done with it. So I'm sorry I can't show all of it. It's quite large. I held it up from the floor up earlier today, and it came to about right here on me. So it's almost as tall as I am, and I am 5'4", so it's going to be the perfect size for me. So that is all for things that I am knitting and crocheting. I mentioned that I started spinning about 2 weeks ago. David bought me a spinning kit for Christmas this past year. It included a drop spindle and some fiber. So he purchased it from Ravelry, and this is sort of the unofficial mini pamphlet book that I have been using to teach myself with the help of a lot of YouTube videos. I actually really appreciated Kristen's of the Orgasm podcast, her little tutorial on how she uses her drop spindle. That was really informative, so thank you, Kristen. But this is the fiber that I have. I'm not sure specifically what kind of wool it is, but it is top, and it's incredibly soft. So it says here on the label, it's their Heinz 57 wool. I'm gonna have to go look up what they mean by that. And then you can see here sort of what I've done on my spindle. It's going okay. What you see wrapped on here right now is pretty consistent yarn, but underneath is a lot of very thick and thin. So thick that it, even just this single ply goes from a bulky all the way down to a lace weight that I'm just afraid is gonna break. So it's definitely gonna be a little scary taking this off of the spindle and plying it. I will be plying it for sure. And it's gonna be interesting to see what it looks like. I'm really curious to try out a spinning wheel, but I don't know anyone with a spinning wheel, and so I obviously need to get much better at using the drop spindle before I try out anything more advanced. So that's that. And actually, I think that's all for now. A little short of an episode this week, just because I'm trying to ease myself into this gradually. I don't want to burn out too quickly, because this is something that I'd really like to stick with. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and please come back for the next video, which I would like these videos to be weekly. Maybe they'll be bi-weekly depending on what I have going on. I do have exams coming up in 2 weeks, so we'll see. Definitely gonna have a lot to show you, I hope, and thank you for joining. I really loved having you here with me. Bye.